What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Cooking with Steve. This is Bodybuilder Steve here, and today we're going to be making some sort of a beef stew, slow cooker, soup thing. We're going to see how it turns out. So it is low carb day for me. So the main reason I'm doing this is these veggies are pretty much the main carb containing source with a little bit of tomatoes and whatnot, but focusing on the beef and low carb so I can use up the cheap meat that I got at the store. As you can see, we have celery, onions, carrots, some beef broth, salt, pepper. This is basically rotel, but it's a Walmart version. Diced tomatoes fire roasted, thyme, rosemary, some tomato paste for thickening, and a little bit, I'm not going to use the full packet of this slow cooker's vegetable beef stew, just to thicken it up just a little bit. So as you can see here, I've got a smaller, one of these smaller slow cookers. It's maybe 3.5 or a 4-quart, I'm not exactly sure. But we're going to see what we can fit in here basically. And I'm going to go ahead and cook this up, show you guys how I prep it. Basically doing this from scratch is my first time, but I'm going to see how it goes. And if you're watching this, it probably turned out well, otherwise I don't think I'd put up a video about a crappy recipe. So first off, you're going to want to obviously chop up your meat, get your carrots out, chop up your onions however you want. I like them kind of somewhat chopped, not finely chopped. I like to have a little bit of a bite with them. And then the same goes for the celery, something I can actually bite on, not something very tiny. So get all that prepared. We're going to go ahead and start with the beef broth. Now if you want to reduce the sodium a little bit, go ahead and grab a low sodium beef broth. I personally need the sodium. Any of us young buck heavy lifters out there, the sodium will do you some good, especially those that train bodybuilding style. You want that sodium for those muscle contractions. So there we go, we're going to start with, we'll do 2 cups of beef broth to start. Basically putting all the liquid ingredients in here. There's not too many liquid ingredients, but we're going to next up use about half a can for starters of the rotel Great Value version, and that's a little bit more than half. I'm going to throw in half of a can. We're going to try to get half this time of the fire roasted tomatoes. And I said for now because I might end up adding a little bit more, but let's go ahead and throw some of that paste in there. And this again is really in there for thickening more than anything else, as you can tell, can't even get it out. We'll again go with half a can. Now the reason I'm going for half is, first of all, I don't know how much room there's going to be for all this stuff. I might end up adding a little bit more beef broth, but also I'm trying to keep the calories as low as possible for this recipe. So just start by adding half, and then if we need to, I mean tomatoes, there's really not that many carbs or calories at all for any of the tomatoes, as well as the paste. So it's not very thick, not very thin. I'm going to go ahead and add probably about 1 serving of this slow cooker's recipe thing. And again, I'm really just adding this in to thicken it up a little bit. Alright, next I'm going to go ahead and stir it up. So this is turning out to be a bit bigger of a slow cooker than I expected, which is good because I want to make sure everything fits in here. So next up, while this is stirred properly, we're going to add the meat and vegetables. So I have about 10, maybe 12 ounces of beef here. I'm not sure, didn't weigh it, don't really care too much. Haven't been using a scale since I moved out here, and I've been doing just fine. So not fretting too hard on that. Just enough beef for the gains. I'm not going to use, likely, going to wash my hands first. I'm not going to use all of the onions, probably about half, save the rest for another recipe later, curry. And probably same thing for the celery. I'm going to try to get all those carrots in there though. Alright, let's go for, we'll go for half the carrots, all the celery, just to keep it a little bit lower calorie. All the celery, and about half. Let's do the whole thing. And then we'll definitely go for half the onions because that's a lot of onions. This is just 1 medium chopped onion, so you can probably get away with a whole small onion or just half a medium. Also depends, if you're using a larger slow cooker, you can go ahead and throw more in there. But again, we're limited on space here. So next we'll try to mix all that up. I understand that a whisk is probably not the best idea for all this now, but too late. Before I continue to mix it some more, I'm going to actually add my spices. We're going to start with some black pepper. Taste. I personally love pepper, so I'm throw a good bit in there. Salt. I mean, you've already got broth in there. If you're going low sodium, just do a pinch. For me, again, I love the salt. Also, salt brings out the flavor. But go easy on it. You can always add more salt. You cannot take it out. I'm no professional, but that's definitely one thing I've learned in the past. Next up, we're going to add some rosemary. And apparently this is a grinder, which is pretty cool. again, I'm not measuring anything. I mean, if you want to go for a measurement, maybe a teaspoon and a half of rosemary. I like flavor. Rosemary, and now we're gonna go with thyme. Not gonna measure, but there's no filter here, so just a tiny bit, just sprinkle, nickel, a little bit over here, right over there. Okay, so I'd say that was about a teaspoon, and we'll go ahead and add a little bit more broth, just because it's not too thin, and I want my stew to be stewy. So total of 3 cups of broth. I can mix things up a little bit more. This is looking pretty good so far. Just want to make sure you get everything mixed up so it's spread nice and evenly, especially get those spices throughout. And I'm going to go ahead and top off those cans because we have room, and screw it. I'm not even going to track probably. I'm probably just going to track the meat and the carrots, and that's it for me. But I'm also on a lean bulk right now, so I'm not too concerned about getting a few more calories. If I was cutting, I would definitely track the tomatoes and everything. Celery, I never track. You can almost, it's hard to overeat celery and calories. All right, so it's looking nice and thick right now, so I'm not even gonna add any more thickening agent via paste or the other thing. I'm just gonna save this paste for that curry recipe that I'm gonna be doing soon. And I think this looks pretty good. So yeah, that was very simple as far as the setup process. Just again, stir it to make sure everything is evenly distributed. I'm gonna set this thing on high for about 3 to 4 hours, come back and check it. I'm gonna go to the gym, get a nice leg day in, and then we will see how this goes. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Set it on high, after you plug it in, of course, and then set the cap on and leave it. Best thing about the slow cookers. What's up, everybody? Just got back from doing some legs. Awesome workout, front squats, boom. Some little bit of some leg extensions and lunges thrown in there at the end just for a little bit of fun. But anyway, we are back here with the stew, whatever you want to call it, beef stew, I'm gonna call it. And I actually just tried this. I didn't think it would be ready, seeing as how I left about 3 hours ago, just over 3 hours ago. So I cooked it on high for 3 hours essentially, and that's all it took, because this is ready. I mean, how it is, if you like your vegetables very soft, you're gonna wanna cook it for another hour or so. So 3.5 to 4 hours if you want the soft vegetables. But I still have a little bit of crunch here in my celery, which I like. So I'm gonna go ahead and I actually put it to low, let it cook on low for a little bit longer and simmer out a little bit. It's still got a nice consistency. It's not super thick, but it's not extremely thin either. It's almost like a beef soup, but I mean, that's kind of how stews are, right? So anyway, this worked out really well. Great low carb day option. I'll give the macros for you in just a second. Let me go ahead and calculate that real quick. All right, so for the entire thing, there are 119 grams of protein. A rough estimate, I put in enough for about 11 or 10.5 ounces of some lean chuck filet. That's what I used. Depends on what kind of meat you use. 119 protein, only 83 carbs, and only 21 fats. So it's even low on the fats. So this is not only low in carbs, because that's for the entire thing, this entire thing right here, but it's also low in fats too. Only 21 fat for the whole thing. So that leaves you a lot of room to play with adding other foods into your low carb days or even a regular day. This is definitely something I'm gonna add to my recipe book. I just kind of went off of, I looked at some slow cooker recipes for stews and chilies and whatnot and decided which one to go with. Went with more of the stew style today because I don't have the beans in there because obviously low carb. So go ahead, give this one a try. This is a great recipe for, again, a low carb day or just any day to keep your macros down and keep that protein up. And you can even increase the amount of meat you put in there if you want. Maybe even throw some ground beef, probably make it more of a chili. But you get the point. Doctor it as much as you want. I mean, I am not the most amazing cook, but this turned out awesome. Didn't have to doctor it or anything at the end, like my mom usually does as she goes along with her recipes, like taste, throw a little bit of salt in there, taste, throw a little bit of this in there. I think it worked out perfect. And you saw how I just eyeballed everything, so kind of a big deal. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm probably gonna make a video soon about a chicken curry that's also low in carbs and I believe low in fat too. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel because I got some more stuff coming to you. Thanks for watching. See ya. So in case there are those who do not believe out there, I'm going to give you all a taste test. Got a little bit of everything on that little spoonful there, okay? We got some beef, we got some onion, carrot, and celery, and even some tomatoes in there. So once this cools down, you definitely gotta try this out. To all you bodybuilders out there, all you kids, people trying to stay fit and lean, this is an awesome recipe. Keep those macros down.